Sometimes the loudest thing in the room isn't the noise, it's the judgment. Every hallway has its own story, and this one was full of whispers. Whispers that followed him with every step he took. They didn't see the late nights he spent studying. They didn't see the way he looked after his little sister before school. They didn't see the fire in his mind. They saw the hoodie, 2 sizes too big. The sneakers, worn thin from too many miles. And his skin, that told them, before he ever spoke, who they thought he was. A young black boy walking with his head down. To them, that was enough to write the rest of his story. Every smirk, every side glance, every quiet laugh he wasn't supposed to hear, it stacked on his shoulders like bricks, and every step down that hallway, he carried it. Not because he wanted to, but because they put it there. But what they didn't know was that Jamal was building something under that weight, and one day, they'd see it. The first cut doesn't always draw blood. Sometimes it's just a sentence, a few words, sharp enough to remind you exactly where they think you belong. Pause. Faint sound of a classroom, pencils tapping, pages flipping. Jamal, the teacher said. And then that pause. The kind that doesn't fill the room with respect, but with expectation. Expectation that you're about to fail. Why don't you give this one a try if you can? Slight emphasis on if you can, letting it sink in. The chuckles came before he even touched his pencil. One boy leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. A girl at the front whispered something to her friend, both smiling like they'd just been handed proof they were right about him all along. And Jamal? He didn't rush to answer. Not because he didn't know, but because he was tired. Tired of having to prove that a black boy in the back row could be just as smart, just as capable, just as worthy as anyone else in that room. So he kept his head down, gripping his pen so tight his knuckles turned white. And in that moment, they thought they'd won. But what they didn't realize was that Jamal was just saving his answer for a bigger stage. The walk home was always the same. Same streets, same cracked pavement, same stares from strangers who locked their doors a little quicker when he passed. To them, he wasn't Jamal, the kid who loved sketching cars in his notebook, or the one who fixed his neighbor's bike for free last summer. He was just another black boy in a hoodie. Pause. Faint sound of distant traffic. Maybe a dog barking in the background. And that meant they had already decided his future before he could write it himself. Every step felt heavier, not from the weight of his backpack, but from the weight of what people thought he was. It's a strange thing, carrying a story you didn't write, one where every chapter ends the same, in failure. But Jamal was done carrying their story, because deep down he knew the real one, the one they'd never see coming and that was still being written. Most people only saw Jamal in the hallways or on the walk home. They never saw this part. The part that happened when the world stopped watching. While they were busy whispering, he was busy working, not for their approval, but for his own survival. Every night, that small desk became his battlefield. Pages filled with math problems, essays, and designs that looked like they came from someone twice his age. He studied like his future depended on it, because it did. Pause. Let the image of the flickering lamp linger in the mind. Sometimes he'd hear the laughter of kids outside or the thump of bass from cars cruising by. And sure, it was tempting to leave the books closed, to live the story they'd already written for him. But Jamal had a different ending in mind. This was the spark they couldn't see, and sparks, when you feed them, have a way of becoming fire. The school was hosting its annual project showcase, the kind where most kids slapped something together the night before. But Jamal had been building his for months. When his name was called, there were a few smirks from the back. Some didn't even look up from their phones. After all, they already knew who Jamal was. Or so they thought. Pause. Let the tension sink in. Then the first slide lit up the screen. Blueprints, equations, a design for a community center that could be built using recycled materials and cost less than half the usual budget. The room got quieter. By the second slide, even the teachers were leaning forward. By the last, the smirks were gone. Softer, more reflective tone. In that moment, the wall they'd built around Jamal cracked. It didn't come crashing down yet, but the first piece had fallen, and through it they caught a glimpse of the boy they'd never bothered to see. When Jamal finished, the room didn't explode with applause right away. It went silent. The kind of silence that comes when people are forced to rethink everything they thought they knew. The principal broke it first, standing up, clapping slowly like he was trying to make sense of what he'd just witnessed. Then the teachers joined, then the students. And soon the whole room was on its feet. Pause. Let the image of Jamal soaking in the moment linger. Jamal didn't smile big or pump his fist. He just looked out at the faces staring back at him. The same faces that had doubted, whispered, laughed. And for the first time, he saw something different in their eyes. Respect. That night, when he walked home past the same cracked sidewalks and flickering streetlights, the air felt lighter. Not because his struggle was over, but because he'd proven, to them and to himself, that he was never what they said he was. Voice dropped softer, almost a whisper. Sometimes breaking the chains doesn't start with shouting. It starts with one quiet moment when the world is finally forced to listen. From the boy they laughed at, to the young man standing at the top. Jamal wasn't just good enough. He was the best in the room. But this story isn't just about one boy. It's about every young black kid who's been told they don't belong, who's felt the weight of 1,000 silent judgments. It's about the strength it takes to keep pushing, to study when the world is busy counting you out. It's about breaking chains, not with fists, but with minds, hearts, and unshakable belief. Jamal's victory is theirs too. A reminder that no matter how loud the doubt, or how heavy the silence, there's power in rising. So, before you judge someone's story, remember this. You don't get to write their ending just because you only saw their beginning. Now, Jamal walks a different hallway, one filled not with whispers or judgment, but with voices, young voices he's helping to raise. He knows what it feels like to be underestimated, to have your potential written off before you even speak. So he gives back, not just with answers, but with belief, with time, with hope. Because every spark needs a flame, and every flame needs a light. Jamal isn't just a story of struggle, he's a story of strength, of resilience, of what happens when you refuse to be defined by other people's limits. Remember this, you don't get to write someone's ending just because you judge their beginning.